going the whole time, so I assumed you guys couldn't hear it because it's just been going. My roommate's been jamming.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Undrafted Uncensored cast of Pod. Hosted by Nick Archuleta. Mosted by Colin Zanker. And last but certainly is least, Joseph Goodwin.
Welcome everyone to the Undrafted Uncensored. What was that? Did you hear that, or am I just hearing
that was Joe talking over you, I think.
Okay. Well, anyway, to continue, normally I would say something funny here, but obviously some of us, our childhood has been affected in a couple of ways. First, condolences to the family of Mr. James Earl Jones. Those of us that grew up when Colin and I did, Field of Dreams, The Sandlot, Darth Vader, Mufasa.
Not me,
Being
though.
from Coming to America and many others. Very heartbreaking. Also, just found out not too long ago, I don't know if you guys heard this, Denver Broncos linebacker Alan Aldridge passed away earlier today.
Yeah.
I believe he was 52 years old is what they were saying. Yeah, 52 years old.
Yeah, couldn't have been that old.
Part of those 90s Super Bowl teams. So condolences to his family as well. Normally I like to start out funny, but sometimes you just got to acknowledge what's going on. I got my Beast hat on from The Sandlot. So,
I mean, both iconic in kind of different ways. Aldridge, obviously, with the Broncos and part of a defense that included, Neil Smith, Steve Atwater, Tyrone Braxton, and helped bring, Super Bowl to Denver. And Earl Jones, like you said, part of our childhood, for you and me, Nick, watching him in so many movies and play so many roles, and just hearing that voice was when you heard that voice, it's just iconic. It still is, and you hear it in so many different places. So yeah, it is a sad day, but also a chance to reflect on all the some great memories that both those two gentlemen brought to I know my life, and it sounds like your life also, Nick.
And actually, before you guys go on, I have a piece of trivia for you. Did you know that the king and queen in Coming to America are also Mufasa and Simba's mom in The Lion King?
Greatness.
So I thought that was pretty. I didn't realize it till probably about 2 years ago. And then when I read it, I listened to the voice, and that was like just as Coming to America 2 was coming out. And so like I actually listened to the voice, and you can hear it.
I had no clue.
You can hear Sarabi in her voice when you actually pay attention.
That's cool. Hell yeah. It's a little nod from Disney.
Little random tidbit for you guys.
Because Coming to America predates Lion King, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I was 90% sure, but Yeah,
because you were early 90s, right?
92, yeah. So I went and saw Lion King for sure. I don't think I would have been of the age to have seen Coming to America.
No.
But it could have come out at the same time, but I didn't think it did.
Oh no, it was definitely an 80s movie because it had Eddie Murphy in it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Eddie Murphy and what did he? What did he? I can't remember. What was it that he predicted last year? There was a part in Coming to America that he predicted with like the New York football team would suffer a tragic loss. It was one of the games that happened last year. It was
I can't remember
predicted
now.
in Coming to America. Crap! Oh man.
We're gonna have to look. Yeah, you're gonna have to look that up later. Yeah. Bring that one back up later. I mean, that's something we do want to bring up from our history and our past. What we don't want to bring up from our history and our past is the wonderful performance that CU put on in Lincoln, Nebraska. I had the pleasure of going to see Green Day, and between Rancid. Actually, no, between the Smashing Pumpkins and Green Day, I had about enough time to watch about a quarter and a half because my brother's a big CU fan. He's a CU alum, and I mean, he's always been, like I said, I've always been the green sheep of my family. So he had his phone and he had it out, and I was watching over his arm as the other bands were playing. And did we not expect Pat Shermer to do what he's doing? I mean, what were we expecting? This is a team that's, touting themselves to be bowl eligible this year. They're going to win 6 games. I don't even think they're going to win 6 quarters at this point.
6 quarters? I mean, they still have CSU, thankfully, to play.
They at least did what they were supposed to do and won this weekend. Dominated the team they were supposed to dominate. What was CU supposed to do against that FBS team? Oh, yeah, they were supposed to dominate. And they got lucky. Favored. According to Prime, they were supposed to win.
Oh, probably. Yeah, according to Prime. But, yeah, wasn't Nebraska actually favored in that game?
Yes, Nebraska was favored. But in all reality, that defense pitched a shutout in the second half, so good for them. But and that was after they lost Shiloh.
Yeah, Shiloh's done for the season, which I don't know, that might be a better thing for the Buffs in the end because there's probably a few less penalties. Not that he's not talented. Unfortunately for him, it probably means the end of his pro. I mean, they are pros; they're getting paid, but it's the end of probably his at least football career. He'll probably get a shot in some places depending on if he wants to play. My view, though, is that he's not going to be one of those guys who would ever even think about going to the XFL or any of these other leagues and try and play that way. I think it's a all or nothing type of thing for Shiloh. But
I'm sure he'll get the strings pulled for him.
Well, yeah, but you're not going to sit on a roster. Yeah, he probably gets invites, but I say here, and I think we all knew. I mean, the Buffs still had a lot of holes to fill. They weren't a perfect team. Saw that in week 1 against North Dakota State. While North Dakota State is really good, they are still, as you said, an FCS team. So you just the cracks are going to start wearing, and there are a lot of bad looks going on up at CU now, especially with Shadur leaving the game early and not hanging out. Yeah. I don't like what's happening, and I know I was talking crap about CU beating CSU next week, but there'd be no doubt in my mind that CSU is even more prepared for this game and sees the weaknesses in CU's current, the way they're currently running their offense, their defense, and they're able to exploit them because we do know Norvell is a good coach up there, so it wouldn't surprise me if CSU did beat CU. While I don't think it'll happen. The CSU, I don't care what they said about the second half being better. It wasn't. They took their foot off the gas.
Yeah, okay? Matt Rule was like, okay, here we go. We got the easy trip now. Let's just don't get hurt, don't get a stupid penalty, and just pad your stats.
Yeah, I wanted it to look better, but I really wasn't surprised by what I saw. Like, I was even talking to our guy at the station, Sean, about it, and he talking about how he had some money on CU, I believe. And I'm like, bro, I keep looking at them to play down to their competition until I see otherwise. And, oh, man, did they not even play up to their competition in this game? Like, that defense smothered them. I didn't realize that Nebraska had that solid of a secondary to be able to cover that long. They were sending guys like they had. CU could have completed some plays, had some mismatches, but oh man, that Nebraska defense, they figured out how to beat 3 wide, for sure.
They weren't playing any cover 0, and Shadur still decided to throw the ball.
Well, and you got to think too. Go ahead, Joe.
No, you're fine.
I mean, you got to think too. This is a line that's been together for 4 years too. This isn't a transfer portal line that you're trying to piecemeal together what you think is going to be a line that's going to help you on either side of the ball. These are guys that know each other. They know where each guy's going to stand and step. And having played line, I mean, you need to be able to have that faith in your boys next to you, because, you know, next thing you know, you got an ankle being rolled on or something, or you're, you know, destroying your star running back who's a future Hall of Famer because you land on him. I mean, a plethora of things can happen.
Brian Greasy.
Yeah, did you guys like that punishment I gave out to Nate?
That was nice.
The Brian
yes.
Greasy jersey.
That was wonderful.
Very nice.
I love that. That's pretty good.
Hopefully, it ruins his fantasy season again.
Well, I mean, I'm still in limbo right now because
your
one
keeper is down, but you still beat me.
Yeah, I should have beat you better though.
I mean,
you didn't even start him
on IR.
He was on your bench and you beat me.
Because I thought
your
Bro
was on
better
your bench.
against the Patriots.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It turns out you shouldn't have drafted any quarterbacks. Should have just, waited for who's the best quarterback in free agency right now? Baker Mayfield, that'd be fine.
Probably.
I'm sure Brock Purdy's probably there. I went to the championship with Brock Purdy last year. I still haven't even changed my fantasy team's name yet from Rock Out with your Brock Out.
I don't know. It was waiver wire is probably better than most of our quarterbacks. Quarterbacks suck this week, but quarterbacks suck this week, including Shadur.
That's right.
Shadur.
Write that down.
Yeah, it's just, man, and CU. It feels like it's not that they're super incapable of running. Like, they had some decent runs. They can't get any consistency out of it, and it feels like they still are apprehensive to actually run the football.
Hayden was 5 for 32. Gustave was 2 for 6, and Offerdahl was 4 for 4 yards.
Yeah, Offerdahl, man, that kid needs to get less playing. I don't know how much less playing time you can give him, but he needs less. Because he was not
those are the rushes that they had on Saturday. Other than the two quarterbacks.
Which one was the sophomore running back kid who was kind of a bruiser? Like, that kid looked solid. I wanted to keep handing it to that kid because at least he was getting some positive yardage. But they were also down by so much; it was hard to really be able to commit that much to a running game that Pat Shurmur's never liked committing to anyway.
Well, I mean, you said 5 for 32. That's 6 yards a clip.
Yeah,
and
but it's only 5 carries.
Exactly. I know, but even if you dumb that down and that 5 yards a carry goes down to 3.5, 4 yards a carry, 3.5 yards a carry gets you a first down every 3 plays.
Yeah, that's the minimum.
And that's what this CU Buffs team couldn't manage to do. And I know that their O-line, you talked about, these guys haven't been together. They brought guys in, but yeah, they're not a team. They're not a cohesive unit, and they're all. It feels like a lot of these guys are there just for the fame that is Prime and the views that he brings into it. And so they're there for themselves much more than they are for the CU Buffs and the logo.
I'm glad you said that. Let me ask you guys a question. And this was mentioned yesterday. I'm pretty sure it was Mark Kisler when he was on the Final Word with us yesterday. They were talking about the CU game. And Kisler brought up I'm pretty sure it was Kisler, brought up a good comparison. It was either him or Troy Rank, one of those two. That the Sanders boys and Travis Hunter are basically the CU Buffs right now are an AAU team. They got their stars that are doing everything to show off and beat everybody down individually. But as a team, nobody cares because you got your 3 studs that are taking all the attention away anyway. And nobody else really matters. You're just a NPC, basically.
I wouldn't go that far with it. I mean, that's kind of how Jackson State was. But, they've got, Deontay Wester is still a very good receiver. They've got that top prospect tackle. He's a fucking true freshman, so you can't expect too much out of him. But they've got talent at other positions. They just don't have enough. And one of you I think it was Nick, was saying how experienced that O-line is. They've been together for Nebraska for years. Like CU doesn't have anybody that's been there for years. They have no cohesion. They did their entire fire sale last year, and I think they even screwed up on the fire sale. They needed to go a little bit further and fire Pat Shurmur.
Well, no, they need to go further.
They
need to go further down the resume chart and pass Pat Shurmur.
Yes,
anything. Just like
he's used to.
They had such a great opportunity to hire anybody else, and instead, they decided to practice incompletions.
Well, I mean, you have that, and then that's the other thing is that this whole staff is built of NFL coaches, and I know this has been brought up, and we talked about it before, but they're NFL coaches. They're not college coaches. They don't know the intricacies of the college game, and it is a different game. Yeah, at the end of the day, the goal is to get the ball into the end zone and any which way you can. But in the college game, you have a lot of different pieces and moving parts that you can use. The field's a different size. You have different things. Yeah, it's still 100 yards long, but you also have, defensive backs who aren't as fast. You have these NFL coaches who are used to having to fit things into certain specific windows because that's the way that it's done in the NFL. And it's got to be, I don't want to say so perfect, but you're preaching things to these kids that I think are unnecessary because maybe you're trying to prepare them for the next level, but you don't prepare them by being on a losing team and not showing, being able to show your true ability. So there are a lot of things that frustrate me with this CU team because they are talented. We know that they have talent and they brought people in, but you talk about that true freshman, Joe. Nebraska has a true freshman at quarterback in Raiola who is, whatever, a Heisman candidate. Like, did he?
Yeah, that kid's nuts.
He should be more in the conversation after this week than Shedeur is with what Shedeur did. Especially because as a Heisman winner, do you want your Heisman winner to be a guy who walks off the field?
No. You want a guy that represents the team and represents that trophy. And real quick, can you imagine yourself at 18 being a candidate for the Heisman Trophy? Like, can you imagine? Do you remember what you were doing at 18 and how stupid you probably were? And like, these guys are like, this kid's in line for probably one of the biggest trophies in North America, and he's just out of high school. Whereas when I was just out of high school, I was nowhere near ready for a Heisman Trophy run.
Only sport I was playing was pocket pool.
Hey-o.
But were you any good?
I practiced. I had plenty of practice.
Good. That's important. Practice makes perfect, my friend. Practice makes perfect.
And we can ask that of the Ore Diggers.
But even with the whole idea of these coaches are there to prepare these kids for the NFL, who trusted Pat Shurmur? I know I keep harping on it, but who trusted him to get your kids ready anyway? Like, this is the style of coaching that Deion Sanders has chosen to do, the Mike Tomlin executive style, where you're giving your coordinators a lot more control than they would have in any other situation. And it's like he's having to get advice from former college coaches in Cliff Kingsbury. I want to say somebody else too. He was talking to, getting some plays and advice from. They were talking about on the broadcast how Pat Shurmur was talking to some college guys to get some ideas and stuff to do differently in the college game. And I'm like, this guy couldn't even fucking do it. And like there does feel like there's a not necessarily a talent gap, but it's like they don't know how to use the talent they have. Like, they feel small, but they're not, blitzing more guys on defense. They feel like they just don't know how to use the guys they have. And I hope that gets better. We saw Prime fire an offensive coordinator or demote one midseason last year, so it's not outside the realm, but I don't know who takes over. It just looks disjointed. It looks like those years for the Steelers when they had a bad offensive coordinator, Canada, and everybody was pissed off, and there's not much Mike Tomlin can do about it because that's not his role. They had the same thing with Todd Haley.
Well, don't you kind of think Pat Shurmur is kind of just a yes man for Shedeur, though? That's what Prime, it appeared, wanted. A guy who would let an offensive coordinator who would let Shedeur run what he wanted to, because I'm forgetting his name from last year. He's at San Diego
Nathaniel
State now.
Hackett.
He's at San Diego State now, but he wouldn't let Shedeur. He would call running plays and try and establish these things, but Shedeur didn't want to run it. So Prime relieved him of his duties. Like that was it. And so what it appears is that if Shadeur's happy with whatever the offensive coordinator is letting him call, then he's going to keep him around. Like, I don't know. He might be forced to fire him with some uproar, but I really don't know if he'll do that if his kid wants him there. It's got to be really loud.
And I think the worst part about this too is, and this is just my opinion, I don't give two shits what your son thinks or what he wants. You were there to impress the fans. You're there to lead that team to victories so that this alumni and these fans and these families and friends can go and celebrate the gold and black that they've known and loved. I mean, the McCartney era, we all remember that. Were those of us that were old enough to remember it, the fifth down and all those different things that we were able to experience with McCartney. And I'm getting, I don't know. I think I'm just getting frustrated because even though I'm a CSU fan, I'm still a CU fan too. And I'm tired of this team being less than mediocre and just kind of limping their way to the finish line every year and making that interlocking CU on that Buffalo look worse and worse.
Looked worse than Ralphie trying to run in game one. It was Sean Lewis. Sean Lewis was the OC last year.
You're welcome for the rant.
Okay. Yeah. I kept trying to say Shamar Moore, and I'm like, no, that's that actor dude from the show.
Yeah, that's NCIS or CSI or EI or.
I like the Adult Swim one that was like NCIS, SD, SUV.
I don't know, that old people CBS show that they love to watch because he's a good looking
David Caruso. Smells like doo-doo.
I mean, and real quick before we transition, the Ore Diggers did what they were expected to do. They came back and they started their season off with a dub, 41-17, I believe it was. Looking like the Ore Diggers of old.
They had that mascot was running faster than Ralphie.
Blaster. His name's Blaster.
That's cool. I like that.
Oh, dude, Blaster's really cool to watch. It gets really exciting. I don't know why. Like when I get to work those games, sometimes that's my favorite part. I'm like, there goes Blaster, yeah.
There goes Blaster. By the way, I did find what I was talking about.
Oh.
Good.
I'm gonna just share this with you guys real quick.
Do it.
Is it
sharing with Karen?
Is it sharing?
Nope. Negative.
No.
Oh, it's because I gotta. Okay. Why aren't you? Okay, whatever.
There. Yep. Wait, maybe there it goes.
Wondering, did you catch the professional football contest on television last night?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it was most exhilarating. The Giants of New York took on the Packers of Green Bay. And in the end, the Giants triumphed by kicking an oblong ball made of pigskin to a big H. It was a most ripping victory.
And that was last year when Tommy DeVito was starting.
Oh, that's funny.
And they came through.
But that's original Coming to America, right? That's not the second
original. Yes, 1988. Yeah. And so, so Tommy DeVito led the Giants by 1 point when Randy Bullock took the field goal for their third straight win. So when Tommy DeVito was crushing.
Oh, Tommy Pasta.
My guy.
Oh, man. Well, from one downer to another, let's get this over with. Actually, I'm not really. I don't think any of us are really surprised by how the Broncos looked. Actually, I'm more surprised by the defense than I am the offense. But for Colin, I'm gonna say something, and I know you're gonna laugh, but I want you to understand I'm saying this with love, okay? For being the fan of Bo Nix that I am, we all know how excited I was when they drafted him. I am nowhere near the apologist that Sean Payton is right now of Bo Nix. Because I looked at that performance yesterday, and that was a rookie performance. There were some bad decisions. There were some options that he looked at that I would have kind of sloughed off, but you want to try and squeeze into that tight window because you forget it's not college coverage anymore, and you want to not realize until the fourth quarter it's okay for you to run out of the pocket and forward. I'm cool with that. Let's try to remember that a little bit earlier in the game. And can a receiver catch a goddamn football?
Dude, and I know I said I was going to be saying this, so at least I'm staying consistent. Tim Patrick wouldn't have dropped those fucking footballs. But it's how it goes. It's early. It's week 1. He's a rookie. He looked better than John Elway in his first start against Jack Lambert and the Steelers. So because the game 1 really doesn't mean anything in terms of a quarterback's first game. It felt like the game plan was a little more conservative than I would have liked. I would have enjoyed a little bit less complete reliance on the run and some more deep shots, although that could have also just been Bo Nix not taking the deep shots that were called. Who knows? But that would have been nice to see a little bit more aggressiveness. I would have liked to see them go for it on that 4th and 1 when you were down, but there was time left. And I feel like the field position wasn't super prohibitive of that, but I could have looked up where it was. I didn't. But I would have liked a little bit more aggressiveness out of everyone, out of Bo Nix, like you said, just running around and making stuff happen. Felt like he kind of waited. Working the Broncos post game, a lot of people were relating the coaching job to a Dan Reeves game where it's just run the ball, be boring, and then at the very end try to get something done all of a sudden. And you can't do that with a rookie in their first game. But yeah, it felt too reliant on the run, I think, overall. That was the biggest issue. If the running game doesn't work, it feels like everything else just kind of sputters out, and they need to be able to do some stuff without relying on that. But who knows? We may not see that this year.
I mean, both of the games that we watched this weekend were basically mirrors of each other. When you think about it, between CU and the Broncos, both teams kind of just called it off in the second half and were playing, keep away from the Broncos. The Broncos defense, they had some really good plays and stops. I mean, 2 safeties, the muff fumble recovery. They had some great plays, but then the offense couldn't capitalize on it, which was frustrating. I mean, the Broncos last year were good in the red zone, and now they're terrible. And I do disagree with you, Joe. I think that Sean Payton actually had a lot of different things on Bo Nix's plate this weekend. I think he had a lot of different plays. They were bringing in a lot of different wide receivers. They were changing players in and out. So there was a lot of different schemes that were going into play and play calls. And I think that what happened is that Sean Payton, once he saw what Bo Nix was doing and that he wasn't playing like the guy that they saw in college, that he took the reins back and dumbed it down because Bo Nix was not playing smart football. I think Sean Payton gave him a lot of the playbook to play with to start, but then Bo Nix proved that he couldn't handle it. And I'm not saying he's not going to be able to handle it, but he showed that he wasn't ready yet to be able to take on all of that. And it's much different going from practice in these preseason games where you're facing, not all first stringers. And sometimes you're not even playing any first stringers or second stringers or guys that are going to make any NFL team in that case. And you're looking good. So he made some dumb decisions. I think Sean Payton reeled it back in, and you're right. He was covering for him, Nick. He was kind of taking the bullets or taking the hits in a few ways, and Bo Nix stood up there afterwards and took his lumps also.
Yeah.
But I think that what I expected from this game was not what happened. I expected the total opposite, that Sean Payton would start out with a limited playbook and try and keep things easy and simple to help Bo get along. But that's not what they did. They tried to do all these exotic, crazy things and, running out, a different running back every single damn play, running in and out, whether it was Little Jordan Humphrey, Josh Reynolds, Devon Vele, who's the only one who could seem to catch a ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just ran so many different things out there. It's hard to have chemistry when you're not getting repetition over and over and seeing how guys run routes. One thing that's talked about all the time is like with Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, any of these quarterbacks and their wide receivers, they know where the other one is going to go simply by their body movements. But if you don't have those reps with them, how are you going to understand what their movement is and what it means on the field in that quick of a time frame?
Well, I'm glad you said that too, because I was thinking about this mostly out of nostalgia, but then it was brought up again this morning by Vic Lombardi and Adam Schefter when he was on this morning. And I just want to I'm dropping names because I want to give credit where credit's due. Do you remember back when the Broncos were doing spring training? We're doing training camp in Greeley.
Yes.
So they stayed up at UNC. And every year you knew exactly how the preseason was going to go. They had 4 games. First game, starters got 1 to 2 series, maybe a third, depending on how much work they needed to have done. Second game, they played an entire quarter. Third game, they played an entire half. Fourth game, they had the entire game off. That gave them time to develop a lot of those relationships. And I understand that you have practices, you have this, you have that, you have OTAs, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter until it's a game speed. And you can't replicate game speed no matter what you do, especially when you're practicing up at UNC. And, those guys were able to get those repetitions. Those Bronco teams were really good. And, the NFL, I understand, is the players have their unit and everything, but that's what made these teams good, because they had time to gel. And I mean, they were staying on campus together. So you're forced to have dinner together and have lunch together and learn your teammate's name other than, hey, 77. No, now I need to know your name.
Carl Mecklenburg. I mean, yeah, true. They also had a lot more practice time back in those days too, to create a lot of that cohesiveness before preseason even happened. But I mean, yeah, they've cut down on that. They've cut down on how long preseason can be. There's just so much less time to build cohesion than there ever was before, and especially with a rookie quarterback, it's going to be difficult.
And it causes the quality to suck, though.
Yeah, true. And I think it's going to keep. I think they're going to keep calling conservative games. And, like I said, I'd like to see more aggressiveness somehow. And who knows where the lack of aggressiveness really came from. Because, yeah, Colin's right. They did a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, they still kept everything real short and tried to rely, I think, too heavily on the run. But and maybe they end up figuring something out with a rotation of running backs. Also, yeah, it felt like they were trying too hard to get so many guys carries when it's like, just get somebody going and let them go,
Well, you look at the scores of these games from just this week. I mean, Ravens Chiefs came down to literally the last play. Packers and Eagles came down to pretty much the last play. I mean, you look at the quality of play. The Bills were trailing the Cardinals going into the half. The Patriots beat the Bengals. I mean, these are games where you're like, there's no way that's going to happen. The Titans lost to the Bears by 7 points. I mean, the only team that really
they were
ran
up
away with their
17-0 at half.
What's that?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Titans were up 17-0 at half, and then their defense scored a punt return for a touchdown and an interception return for a touchdown. The offense for the Bears did nothing. Caleb Williams had like 92 yards passing and 30 yards rushing. That was all their defense bringing them back. But this is sorry, I totally cut you off. But this is all just showing that there's there's no cohesion on offense through the NFL. There were
That's where I was
really
going with
no big
Week
offensive performances besides running backs, and one of those running backs just so happened to be running on the Denver Broncos in Kenneth Walker III. The other one was tonight with Christian McCaffrey out. Jordan Mason.
I forget
Jordan
his first
Mason ran all over the Jets today.
Well, and I mean to take it even a step further, and Colin, I'm sure you noticed this. What were the spreads throughout the NFL this week? Vegas had no idea. I mean, Vegas is you're going between a 3 and a 6 point spread with most of these games.
Yeah.
Other than the Panthers, most of these games were a narrow margin.
Panthers, I think Panthers Saints was 6 also.
Oh, was it? I thought it was higher.
Yeah, I don't think it was that big.
Oh, I might have been looking at something else then.
I mean, it could have been, but I don't think anything was double digits. That's for damn sure.
No, it wasn't. And
that could have been
again,
one of the highest
quality of play.
at 6 or 7.
Yeah, the quality of early season football is bad. Last year it was too. I don't know. I feel like last year was the same thing. Maybe there was a little bit better, but the Chiefs and Lions game on opening night, that was a sloppy game also, where the Lions came away with the victory in Arrowhead or Geehaw, whatever the hell it is. I feel like the early season football is a lot sloppier. And you're right. If they had these practices, if they had all these things, it would be different. And the NFLPA has made it a point not to do that. So what you're looking for is I mean, I'm going to use the Packers as an example. Last year, at the start of the year, Jordan Love wasn't looking great or good. There were some games here and there and some flashes, but then here comes week 8, week 9, week 10. And guess what? The Packers are on fire. They're clicking on all cylinders. They're playing well. They go in the playoffs and they beat the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry's world and move on. They almost go on and beat the 49ers, Yeah. They started to play together and figure things out. So
yeah,
I'm not
all
like
lose to the Broncos, and then they just went on a streak.
Yeah. Yeah, they lost when I got my dog, my good luck charm dog.
Good dog.
I don't know. I mean, I had heard something else today. Just the number of touchdowns during week 1 that it's progressively become less and less. Like it started like 58 and it's gone down to like at one point it was like 26. This year it was 34, I think, not counting anything that happened tonight in the Monday night game. And I think it was passing touchdowns. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I think you're right on that though, Nick. I heard that too.
I couldn't find
it was also partially talking about the kickers.
Yeah.
Because of how good the kickers have been. And they hit something like 21 out of 23 from 50 plus. Whereas before you might be more apt to go for it on 4th down from the 45-yard line or whatever, the 40-yard line, and try and get that first down rather than kick the field goal. But kickers have become so good that teams are just like, well, let's get the points because they're not automatic, but they're almost automatic.
Just about, yeah. I thought I had the article up, so I apologize for not. I think I might have exited out of it when I was cleaning up my internet. Obviously, the big news was PS2 getting his bag. It's an extension. It's not anything else. Guaranteed money. Obviously, he deserves it. The Broncos are going to build around him. Now it's just a matter of safeties that can play safety. And not get lost in the cover 0 and the cover 2. Remember where they play? But, yeah.
There was a very short amount of time where Patrick Surtain was the highest paid cornerback in the NFL.
Yes, he was.
Days. And now I can't believe that they gave that to Jalen Ramsey, who I feel like used to deserve to be the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. But oh my God, really? Okay, whatever.
Well, yeah, but this is what teams in a window do.
Yeah.
They're in a window. They had the money to spend on Tua. You have, what is it, 2 years with Tyreek out in Miami. You
If he doesn't get arrested.
If he doesn't get arrested, I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, that's a whole
That whole thing's
bag
gonna
of
get
stuff.
ugly real fast.
Yeah,
So
it already has. I'm
if
sure
I were
you might
Miami
have seen
Dade,
the
I'd start
stuff
writing that
today.
check now.
Yeah,
Dude.
you might have. I don't know if you saw the stuff that happened today.
I did.
But
Yeah, did
why
you
I said
watch
they
the
better start
there's
writing
a
that check
lot
now.
going on with that.
the body cam footage just got released of Tyreek Hill. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
That's
Yeah,
why
it
I
was-
said they need to cut that check now.
Yep. And then the police union even tried to say like he was uncooperative. Like,
Yes and no. I'm not gonna.
We're not going to get into it.
I'm not gonna get into it because there were
Pat-
wrongs on both sides.
But Patrick Surtain, I mean, DK Metcalf, once again, he had less than 50 yards receiving. I want to say last time that it was the last matchup 2 years ago, Surtain held him to 39 yards receiving on like 4 receptions or 5 receptions. And this time it was 3 receptions for 29 yards. That play, one of the plays on the in the first quarter where he just slaps the ball away from him, was unbelievable. Right. Just climbed over his shoulder and or climbed over his back and popped it out of there. Surtain is easily the best cornerback in the NFL right now. And going back to Miami in the championship window, I mean, sometimes you just got to pay those guys and you pay the reaper later, because like the Broncos are not in a window like that where they can afford to just pay older veteran aging guys, because the Dolphins know they have 2 years to go win a championship. Tua's deal will be about up, or they'll be able to get out from underneath it if they want to go on and move on from him as a quarterback. Mike McDaniel's cocaine highway from Miami will have finally taken over the U.S. and he can quit coaching in the NFL. And he can just become an overlord in Havana or Panama or wherever the hell he decides to go, Colombia, and live up in the mountains. Tyreek Hill will be
Havana, Unana.
Tyreek Hill will be in his adult movies at that point in time, and Raheem Mostert will probably just be running like a little freaking speed demon that I should have used as my keeper.
There you go. Actually, no. Tyreek Hill said he wants to be a cop someday.
Yeah, they all say that. Anyway, and you got to look at the East too. The Dolphins can own that division for the next few years. Easily. I mean, the Bills are. I mean, they're a shell of what they used to be. It seems like Patriots are trying to crawl out of a hole. The Jets suck.
They laid an EGG today.
Yeah, they did. So I mean, they've got the ability to run away with that division. It's just a matter of being smart, and taking advantage of the opportunity. I mean, bring Dan Marino on as some special assistant coach so he can get his ring. And yeah,
I love it. I want him to be the field goal holder coach. Laces out.
Do you guys still like your 6 and 7 wins pick respectively after that game?
Yes. I only say that though because Sean Payton obviously is going to make some changes. Bo Nix has been drinking from a fire hose. We've all seen it. But I think Payton's smart enough to make some adjustments. I don't think these will be more progressive wins than they are like right at the front of the season like I thought they were going to be. I don't trust that offensive line next week. JJ Watt is a terrorist and a tornado.
Luckily, he's retired.
And TJ Watt, sorry. TJ Watt. That dude was, he was a man on fire yesterday. And I loved watching it until I realized I didn't pick their defense to start, and he's going to be eating Bo Nix alive next week.
Garrett Bowles has an injury, so
Joe, you still
Watt's
feel
on the other
confident
side, though. He's on Miner's side.
Yeah. You still feel confident
okay
in yours?
I mean, I don't think I picked him to win that game, so sure. But it's going to be tough. The offense doesn't move well for a lot of different reasons. So if they keep looking like that every week, then no. But it's week one. The Broncos went 13-3 and lost to a bad Miami team with Jake Plummer in 2005. So, and anything can happen week one. I'm not saying this is a 13-3 team at all. I'm just saying crazy things happen on week one. But there's definitely stuff to work on, stuff to work out. And I guess every team has that to an extent. But I could be convinced to drop my win total for sure. But I also had them winning a bunch of relatively easier games. And I still feel like Sean Payton does not do well with losing. But maybe we're seeing a Sean Payton that's kind of resigned to kick back and just develop players this year and lose some games and, draft, I don't know, Travis Hunter.
I would like that. And the one thing that I want to that I got to go back to, Nick, that you were talking about, that I'm just going to go back to my point before you let it move on, is that you talked about Nebraska. You talked about their cohesion. Talked about those guys playing together. How important it was. Guess how that happens in the NFL?
Losing.
You draft them.
Yeah.
Carefully. You
get them. You bring them in together. You get rid of the guys who aren't going to be there in 3, 4, 5 years. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but I am, because I'm beating a dead Bronco right now. Like, the Broncos are dead. There are some guys that they're going to need to move on from. And that includes some guys I like Zach Allen, but he's going to be one of those guys that you should probably trade away because he's going to have some value this year. Cortland Sutton, if that was real, the third round pick, you take it. I mean, all of these things, you got to stop bringing in these fixes, and you got to start fixing it from the ground up, and that's from the draft. And now that they have their draft picks, we'll see if they do that and try and accumulate some more. But that's also going to mean Sean Payton's going to have to let go of his, his Boos and the Troutmans and the little Jordan Humphreys and things like that, and allow these young guys to develop. And I know Troy Franklin had a crappy camp, but you know who else had a crappy camp with their quarterback his rookie year? Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
All right. So get him in a game. See if in game time things are different, because there are some guys that are just gamers and not practice guys. There are some Allen Iversons out there. All right. So put them in there. Let them develop. Don't, maybe Vele is here, but I mean, honestly, Vele is also a 28-year-old rookie who is on his, third marriage with 4 children from each of those wives. All right. So give me a break. You got to get these guys who are going to be here some time and try and develop this roster that's young and can play together for a while.
All I can think of is those radio commercials of Big Lou. Does your third wife want a life insurance? Be like Big Lou, but he's only on wife number 2.
I get what you're saying, Colin, and I keep telling you too. It's so much easier to think about that negative because it's right there in front of us and it's staring us in the face. And I know that the Broncos are not going to be good this year. I mean, we saw it, but I think there's still a chance too that Bo can surprise us. And again, I'm not saying he's going to take us to the playoffs. What I'm saying is we're going to see him grow more, and it will be something we can hang our hat on to at least watch his development and keep the Broncos in games that they probably wouldn't have been in before or would have just been obliterated. But again, that's a two-way street too, because they have to rely on the defense too. And, both sides of that cycle have to keep going at the same way, because once they don't, once they start doing this, it's not going to work.
I mean, that defense was great yesterday, but this is just, I mean, I know it goes back to last year, but it really has been mismanagement where you didn't see the writing on the wall and you could have done some things last year. And Justin Simmons is now in Atlanta, but if Kevin Byard got a 6th round pick or 5th round pick, whatever it was from Philadelphia, the Broncos could have gotten a 6th or 5th round pick for Justin Simmons last year.
Yeah.
They could have gotten something for some of these guys at some point. Maybe not everybody, but for some of them. And that's where my frustration really boils over, is that these guys refused to do anything that set up a future, and now it's even more difficult because it's going to take time and the right development, and you're playing this game with these veterans that, not that you don't need some leadership, but they're not the ones who are going to be here winning it for you, and you got to develop them together.
Yeah, you're right. It feels like it's a different kind of mismanagement than the John Elway days, but it's that same level of frustration of like, we can see a path and it's not being taken. And it's not like, oh, well, the path being taken, he's playing chess while we're over here playing checkers. It's like, no, we're playing checkers and he's playing,
badminton.
A children's game. I didn't have a good metaphor for this. I'm sorry.
Candyland.
and Joe, just to correct you, it's me and you can see it. Nick couldn't see it.
Exactly. There it is.
I'm just trying to be the lone positive guy. Okay, we got enough naked Nancy's around this town right now.
But it is being positive, Nick.
Like, as soon as we have something to be positive for, we're going to be positive towards it. I can't wait to be positive about this team.
There's positivity. Okay,
once again, I can't wait for Bo Nix to be Kirk Cousins.
You know where there's positivity? In the Bronx right now. Okay, they're game and a half up.
I just can't wait to be.
They got so just real quick, just touch on it, and then we'll turn it over to you, Colin. There's about 19 games left in the season. The Rockies there's still a chance, okay? There's still a chance. They've got 54 wins right now.
Oh.
To not lose 100.
Yeah.
But
I thought you were talking about, I was like, yeah.
Oh no, they're long.
No, I know.
They're sitting on top of the Marlins right now, thankfully. They hold the tiebreaker.
That's why I thought Joe passed you something through the windows. I thought you were smoking something that Joe had.
No.
I was like, they have a chance. I was like, I thought you were talking about some playoffs. I was like, what where the hell are you, Nick?
Nick, are you okay
I need 3 teams to get over 100 wins.
3 teams to get over 100 wins. So right now, your best shots are the Yankees,
the
Dodgers, and the Phillies.
Yep,
sure.
That's gonna be. It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be close.
So the Rockies, I think I had them not losing 100 this year. I don't remember if I still have that bet or not. They got 3 against the Tigers. The Cubbies come to town on the D-backs. They go fly it to L.A., and they come back for their final 6. 3 against the Cards, 3 against the Dodgers. I just need them to win 9. If the Dodgers can lock up the NL West and just throw out the kids from OKC, Let the AAA teams face off against each other at Coors Field.
They'll still win.
I'll be happy. The Cards get eliminated. The Cards can just bring their kids up from Memphis. I'm trying. I'm trying.
I should have put money on it at the beginning of the year. I'm sure I took him to lose 100.
It is not happening, Nick.
You know what is happening?
Other people's victories.
This is the victory formation.
All right, boys, here we go. Best play in football. 6 right tight diamond victory on 1. Break.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, it's jam.
The Pick'em segment, proving that Colin Zanker is the most humble man in the history of time. Least. Featuring Nick Archuleta, wishing he was somewhere else. And Joe Goodwin, just kind of winging it.
We are here in the victory formation, something that the Colorado football teams don't know anything about if you're not named the School of Mines. Well, as we get, yes,
they're 1-1.
You're right.
Technically,
you are correct. Someone's got to win this weekend, maybe. We kicked things off with our WNBA pick of last week. We had 5 on the slate that we chose from, and actually, let me go through this. One of us went 4, or excuse me, we had 6 games on the slate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, we had 5. One of us went 4-1. The other one went 3-2, and then the other went 2-3. Well, to kick things off, it was our WNBA game. It was the Aces versus the Sun. The sun set as the Aces overtook them in Phoenix or Arizona. They might just be the Arizona. I don't know where they are, or what their name is. I'm pretty sure it's still just the Phoenix Sun. But the Aces come out victorious, and that means Nick and Joe win the first game or the WNBA game this week at -135. That was 17-41 for both of them. Sunday night baseball.
It was the Connecticut Sun.
Connecticut. What is? Oh yeah, Phoenix. Oh my God. Yes, it is Connecticut. I don't know. I'm sorry. I missed my WNBA teams that aren't the Indiana Fever. Not sorry. The Arizona Diamondbacks took on the Houston Astros in Sunday night baseball. Nick's favorite team in the Astros lost. Just kidding. He did not choose the Astros. He chose the Diamondbacks as they won 12-5 in a offensive explosion. The D-backs are one of the best teams in baseball since the All-Star break. So Nick and Joe also got that one correct. We move on to the first game of the NFL season, where it was the Ravens and the Chiefs in Geehaw Arrowhead Stadium. Lamar Jackson just decided to poop his pants on the field as the Ravens lost against the Chiefs. He actually ran for 132 yards, but forgot how to throw the football to his players in the end zone, and just a toe too big.
Just a bit outside.
They were going to go for 2 on that, so the game was going to be over, which really screwed me over because I needed a field goal at the end of that to win an extra 400. But I still had a great weekend either way. In real betting,
receivers start wearing white cleats.
But the Ravens lose that one, which means Nick loses and I lose. Joe wins that one, 16-58. Oh, yeah, the D-backs winning over the Astros was 22-50, our biggest win of the week.
Nice.
Move on to the Friday night game in Sao Paulo, Packers versus Eagles. The Packers and lose Jordan Love, obviously Nick's favorite NFL player.
Stop rubbing it in.
You still beat me this week, so shut up. I was the only one to choose the Eagles in this game, meaning I won $16.90. And then we had the Lions versus the Rams, and the Lions came out victorious. And, of course, the one time, take a picture, everybody, we all chose a sweep, and we all got it correct. Imagine that. I don't know how that happened, but it did. So we each won $15.71 on that game. The lowest win of the week is the only one that we all got right.
$15.
Meaning my total this week of wins, I still won $2.61, still in third place at $4.79. Nick in second, Joe got the biggest win this week overall at 62-20, bringing him up back over $500 to $560.21 in second place. And Nick, you got second place for the week, but you're still in first overall. You won $35.62, and you're at $643.79. We have a short week because we'll be recording again on Saturday this week. But that means that there's still Thursday night football. And in Thursday night football this week, we have the Buffalo Bills versus the Miami Dolphins in Miami. I believe it's in Miami, actually. Let me research that to make sure I am giving it out correctly. Nick obviously already knows who he's going to take because you saw that look on his face. So, Nick, why don't you just go and tell us why you are choosing the Dolphins?
Well, I mean, we were just talking about it. The Bills are a shell of what they used to be, and they're in a playoff window or a Super Bowl window right now. At least a playoff window. There's just no way that the Dolphins, as powerful as they are right now, can stumble to a Bills team that's got some issues going on in the wide receiver core.
Joe, who you got?
It's early season football, so I still feel like anything can happen, especially in Miami where weather isn't going to be as much of a factor. But yeah, I think Nick's right. I think that that was cool. I almost just said Nick right. That could have been terrible. But yeah, I think it's probably Miami. They've got too many good players. You know, Josh Allen's fantastic. The running game is good in Buffalo. They have speed and talent at receiver. It's just a bunch of no names. But yeah, it's got to be Miami early on. Buffalo might surprise us by the end of the season, but this one, yeah, Miami.
Sammy Watkins is not a no name. He's just a nobody in the NFL. Give me the Dolphins in this game
still
as
plays.
they come through victorious. I agree. It's a clean sweep. So you know what? We can't get lucky twice in a row. Put your money on the Bills. And you know what? That wraps it up. We get into a little bit of night driving as Nick takes us on out of here.
And thank you. There it is.
You're welcome.
Voice, mellow tones. 11:28. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Oh,
It's been wonderful having you around. Thank you, Michael Spillin and everybody at E5280sports.com for having us around for such a lovely podcast. We hope you enjoy everything we do. Please continue to subscribe and like and share. Without you, you wouldn't hear these dulcet tones whispering in your ear.
Nick's doing
Somebody give me a
ASMR.
towel.
Everybody, we love you. And we want you to come back. We'll be back Saturday at 11:30. Tune in then. Until then, hooray sports and go football. And we love you. Good night.
Did someone say come back?
Yes. I was thinking more late night DJ.
Love y'all. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.